Hi, welcome to the Sisterhood of Sensuality, and this is interview number 6. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing my very dearest friend, Jeni Burgess. So we used to be neighbors, and we are definitely sensual soul sisters. I've always felt a deep spiritual connection with her, as we probably knew each other in a different life or in every life. I really have no idea, but I've always felt very deeply connected to Jeni. So I'm super excited to be interviewing her. She's also a part of this amazing book, Breast Easy, and she is chapter 9. And the chapter title is Vagina. And so the book's really a lot about breast and body love. And Jeni brings a beautiful piece of the feminine connection and our sensual connection into the book as she speaks about her relationship with her vagina. And I think it is so beautiful that is a piece of this book, and it's out there for women to understand, like, what an amazing thing to do, to actually be creating a relationship with our vagina and having that beautiful divine connection. So welcome, Jeni, and could you kind of just share a little bit about your beginning journey with your vagina and like how you felt drawn to putting that into a book and to sharing your story?
Oh, thank you so much, Camille. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. That
You're
feels
welcome.
really, really good. Thank you. So the beginning part for me in desiring to share, I've been a life coach and mentor for the last 4.5 years. And for the last, been on my kind of self-discovery, conscious wake-up journey the last 10 years. And the body has been such like a pivotal part in my wake-up process and in my continual process. And for me, wake up is a journey. It's not a destination. It's a consciousness level of waking up all the time. And the body's been such a big part of that, where I really, as I got connected to my body, I really started to get connected to my vagina. And I just noticed that I'd always struggled growing up. And the more, as I lost weight and got more connected to my body and more connected to my sex, like there's still, even as I changed my mindset, there's still a lot of energy around my vagina and how I felt about it. I changed my thoughts. I did affirmations. I, would kind of pet her and say nice things and really like trying to, do that. And I really had a desire to really connect and feel love with that part of my body. And, in the book, Breast Easy, in my chapter, I really like share like how I felt about it as a young girl. I was really curious, and there was a lot of curiosity. There wasn't all the heavy energy and thoughts and feelings of like, oh, I got to keep it clean. I got to keep it, I got to take care of it, all these different things. It wasn't like, oh, hey, this is really cool. This feels really good, that I had as a little girl. And it was like kind of a functional thing. Yeah, you had sex there. Yeah, you had that's where you had babies, and when you get married, you can have sex, and that's good because you're having sex, and yeah, it feels good. But there wasn't like an internal connection with that part of my body with her. And as I started to connect, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 40 years old, and I do not know a lot about my vagina. I mean, yeah, I know all the technical terms. I know, about my labia and my urethra and my clit. And, but I still didn't know a lot about it. And so it really started with me being curious. And actually it was that connection too. It wasn't the mindset stuff. It was the connection by looking in the mirror and looking at her that started to the internal cleaning and clearing out a lot of that sensation I had around my vagina and how I felt. All the shame. I grew up my experience, I grew up in a religious community, and my experience of that brought a lot of shame. There will be other people that grow up and, have grown up in religious communities that don't experience that. But that was my experience, was a lot of shame around sex, around my vagina, around, exploring that part of me. And, I really wanted to feel good, not just like, oh, I'm a positive person, I feel really good about myself.
Mhm.
No, I really wanted to feel good. Not
Yeah.
just when I looked in the mirror, like I wanted to feel really good about that part of my body. And when I really told the truth is I didn't. And I pretended, and I want to pretend that all the time, because I could talk about sex totally. I
Yeah.
talk to my kids about sex. I thought I was pretty open, but the truth of it is I really didn't feel good about my vagina. I really didn't. I didn't, I'd never really got a mirror and really looked at her and connected with her. And I was like, wow, like for most women, men's, their genitals hangs on the outside. They see everything that happens to their genitals all the time
Mm.
for years growing up, they have like this kinesthetic and sight connection to their penis that I didn't have with my vagina. And as I talk to a lot of women, most women don't have that kind of static feeling and sight connection to their vagina. Because you look in the mirror, you see the top of it, right? You don't
Mhm.
see all the beautiful folds and all those things. And, as you're
Yeah, there's
growing
just
into,
really no connection there. I mean, it's not like you said, there's a man that's born and his penis is outside of him. So there's a direct relationship connected and
mm-hmm,
created. And with
mm-hmm.
women, everything is kind of tucked up and it's beautiful, but we don't consciously think, oh, we really should create a connection to our vaginas and how
Mm-hmm.
they can please us and be part of our daily experience. Like that's not even talked about in our culture.
Oh, it's not. And it's not talked about. Like that is where, like the clit is actually where the source of pleasure is, Yes, sex can be pleasurable. Intercourse can be pleasurable. And it is pleasurable. Totally is.
Mm.
Absolutely. The most pleasure comes from the clit, not actual intercourse. And that's
Yeah.
all a part of sex as well. And I think as I was growing up, you kind of get to that awkward spot where you like get your period and you're like, you're really awkward and you start to get hair on top of your vagina and you're like, ugh, and so you even want to cover it. For me, my experience was I wanted to cover it up anymore, and then it smelt and I got to keep it clean. And I just felt like it wasn't like, oh, you started your period. That's so great. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that was not my experience of that. And so like my desire was my connection to that feminine part of me. Like I wanted to love that. I wanted to feel good, not just love about it, because that seemed way far out there. I just wanted to feel good about it, let alone love. Like I just wanted to have good feelings. And so when I actually got a mirror out and looked, it kind of felt really confronting. And I started journaling, and I was like, I had fondness today.
Yeah.
Like there was
Like I wasn't in complete disgust or
disgust, right? Like I wasn't, because I could say, yes, the vagina is beautiful. Yes, that's the place where babies came out of. I've been taught all these things of like it's a very spiritual thing. It's a very sacred thing. I didn't feel that way. That's not how I felt.
Mhm.
There are times that I didn't like my smell. There's times when I had judgment where I was like, oh my God, like that smell coming out of me smells horrible. Like when I'm having my period, like I didn't know all about that and how to like feel about that and connect with that. And just, like nobody talked to me about that. And I didn't, I talked to my girls about their vagina, and how to keep it clean, but I didn't know how to teach them about it because I didn't have my own connection. And, my boyfriend, at the time, it was so beautiful. I remember him like started to tell me and started to look and tell me what he saw about my vagina, like just like the beautiful folds, how it opens like a heart. And I was just like, what is he seeing? Like, this is me that he's talking about. And he was seeing this, and I didn't see what he saw. I didn't feel towards my own body what he felt. And I'd, been married in the past for years, and, it was like, oh, men love vaginas. Oh, men love pussy. It was like, oh, that's just because they're men. But like, it was such a difference as he expressed like how he really felt and how he loved. And it was so beautiful. And I was like, wait, what? I don't
Yeah.
feel that. I don't
Yeah.
feel that way about her. I'm like,
Because
what is he?
Men do see
Right.
the beauty in the divine feminine, like in our bodies, in our breasts, in our belly, in our pussy. Like they just love every aspect of it. And we don't. And so we almost project our hatred, like, oh, they just like us because we have a pussy, instead of like
Right.
really they're seeing the
Totally.
beauty of who we are.
Yeah. And so I wasn't able to like fully receive that as he, was sharing with me what he saw and just sharing his feelings. I was just kind of like, I couldn't fully receive that. And so I was like, all right, like, I really want to connect. I want to feel that way about my own body. Like, I want to feel that way. And there was just like this sense of sadness that I had, that I was just like, oh, like that I didn't feel that way about my own body and that he did. And I had a desire to feel that way about my own vagina and have a connection with her. And, and since then, I've talked to so many women. I was like, oh my gosh, like there are so many women that feel that way. There's so many women that don't have like this, I kind of always sensed this thing with men, and not all men, but just my experience with a lot of men. There was just like this proudness that they had of like their penis. Like they were very proud,
Yeah.
very proud. And I was like, I do not have that, like that sense of pride and that sense of like, yep, she's great. Absolutely. She's wonderful. Like there's my little friend, like that I felt like men had with their penis. And I was like, I desire to have that and have that relationship with my vagina, and have these fears that come up. And I'm like, well, if I do that, then what if people like think that I'm like, what if they think I'm super sexual? And I'm like, okay, what's wrong with being super sexual? Well, that, maybe people will think I want to have sex with everybody. No, I just want to feel really good about myself. I want to feel
Yeah.
really good about my own sex and about my own vagina and really have a relationship there. And as I have started that process, and I still practice this to this day. It's like I wrote in the book, it was a budding practice, it started as a budding practice when I wrote the book, and it's still a practice where I look in the mirror and I connect. And nowadays when I look in the mirror and connect with my vagina, and I'll do different things where sometimes I'll just do a noticing for like 15 minutes and I get the mirror out, usually it's like one of those big mirrors that you pluck your eyebrows with, where I just notice her and I just be with her. And now when I look at her, I'm like, oh my gosh, like the colors, the folds. I'm like, I'm seeing things that I never saw before. I'm feeling things that I never felt before. But it took some time to me actually to develop those feelings, because I didn't have, I have those feelings. And the
Yeah.
more that I've done that, the more I felt like, for me, I've noticed that it's like any connection or any relationship that you have, the more time and presence that you put with there, and the more energy that you put there. Where energy goes, energy flows.
Yes, I love it. So awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And you speak about that mirror practice that you do, and I myself have done it as well. And at first, it is a very intimidating type of process almost. It's like a handheld mirror. For one side of it, it's a beautiful thing, and for the other side, it like magnifies it, right? And so it's like, oh, do I want to see my pussy magnified, right? Like, how am I going to feel about that? But it's been so beautiful of like really just like you said, where you focus attention and you're more connected and more centered in like the beauty of our pussies and our vagina and what she can bring to us, right? We're receivers by nature. So we can just really allow ourselves to connect in that yummy, delicious way. And so what would you suggest for a woman that's like, whoa, like this kind of sounds all a little outrageous. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to be looking at my pussy in the mirror or my vagina. If that word offends other people, I'm sorry. I'm super comfortable with that word, but so what would you suggest, like if you just had like one tip for women that they could like start creating a stronger connection to their vagina, what would you suggest?
So my suggestion would be to actually, if they're not ready to even look in the mirror, like naked in front of the mirror, like just even see the top of their vagina, just put your hand on top of your vulva, on there, and just be able to feel her and just breathe. And do it for 5 breaths, for 5 counts. I'm going to do it now.
Yeah, I'm doing it too.
And the breath is going to relax the body. And as you relax the body with the breath and you start to connect with your hand, actually have a physical connection with your vagina, it's going to, start that energy flowing through there with the breath, and you're going to start to connect with your vagina. So that's where I would start, and you can start more than, as you continue to start there, start that every day, and do that for like 5 days. And then add a little bit more onto it. I mean, even if you just put your hand over your clothes, maybe you do 10 breaths. And then maybe you do where you put your hand on the actual, have skin contact on your vulva. And there.
Yeah.
And continue to build, like follow the intuition of your body. If it's too much, cut back until you can add a little bit more. And then, look at it in front of them, like look at the top of your vagina, look at her when you're in the mirror or when you're in the tub or when you're washing her. Just start. It doesn't have to be like, like if you've had sexual trauma or if you have all this negative sensation or connection and you're like, oh, I can't even go there, I don't even want to look there. And most women that I've talked to, there's a high percentage of women that, especially when they have babies, they're like, oh, I did not want to see that. I don't want to see that. Like there's no, like, I just hand me the baby.
Yeah.
And it may be the blood or all the mess or the placenta that came out. And that was something actually I wanted to see. I watched all of my kids be born, even with all the sensation I had, the disconnect with my vagina. I still wanted to watch all my kids be born. And so, starting to look at the top of your vagina in the mirror, and then when you wash and you're in the tub, like start there, and then like work up to actually getting a hand mirror. And even if it's like you can just do 30 seconds at a time, start there. Start somewhere. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Like your body will let you know. Your vagina will let you know. One of my favorite books is Pussy by Mama Gina, and it's called Pussy, a Reclamation. And I love in that book that she really talks about the vagina and the clit actually being like a little brain. And the clit receiving information from the hypothalamus, the cerebral cortex, the conscious and the subconscious, and like really being able to, like, that's where a lot of our intuition comes from. And I'm like, when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, like our vaginas are so amazing. Like they're so a powerful, like that's a huge, powerful spiritual connective source. And we're not connected to our vagina, like we're not connected to that source within us. And that's so, so beautiful. And I'm like, oh, that's where the sacredness comes from. It's not like it's the sacredness because like it's bad. I'm like, it's because that's the freaking power source. That's the sacred feminine energy right there. I'm like, oh, that's it.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I love that. And there was even a time that I was sharing something with you, like, oh, I really feel drawn to doing this. And you asked me, like, have you asked your pussy? And I thought, I wonder if there's something there. And I got the mirror out and I was looking at her and I was asking her this question. And it was like she did have her own intelligence of like energy was moving through my body and I could feel just this like yes sensation of like, yes, I'm supposed to do this. So I do believe that our vaginas are very much connected to our consciousness and who we are as women and how we can really show up and blossom powerfully when we take this relationship seriously, right? It's not like something, it's just like if when you're dating, you're putting in time and you're putting in effort and you're putting your best foot forward, you know? And the same thing with creating that relationship with our vagina is it's going to take time and it's going to take effort, but and it's going to be something that is beautiful some days, and some days you're going to feel like, you know, and that's okay. All of it is okay if we just continue to step by step walk down that path so we can fall in love with who we are as women and absolutely fall in love with our vaginas.
Absolutely. And feel all, I love that you shared that. That's such a beautiful example of being able to connect to your vagina and being able to feel the energy and power of that connection and that feminine energy and the power source there. And, you know, feel all the feels. Like if you're like, I feel awful, I feel horrible, feel that, really feel it. And then what do you want? How do you want to feel? Like really don't, like none of it's wrong, none of it's bad. It's just a feeling, and feel it. You know, if you're journaling about it, I remember when I was journaling about it, I had a couple hate letters that I actually wrote to my vagina because I was pissed at her. And I was not happy. And I was not a happy girl with her. I'm like, look, you brought me a lot of pain in my life, and I just was really angry, and so I expressed that. And that's all such a beautiful part of that relationship, is all the feeling part that you have about it.
Yeah. Well, awesome. We will wrap up this interview. And so I'll put the link with the interview to anybody that's wanting to order the Breast Easy book. There'll be a link below. And if anyone is feeling super drawn to you, Jeni, how do they go about finding you? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
So one of the best ways to connect with me is on Facebook. You can do it through my personal page, which is Jeni Griffith Burgess, or my my business page right now is Talking Bodies, Jeni B with Talking Bodies with Jeni B, that you can find me on Facebook, and we'll also put that in the link below, so that you can find me both of those places and reach out to me through Messenger. You know. And I'd love to connect with you and have a conversation, or just let's be friends on Facebook.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your amazing story. I really believe there's so much power that we all get to awaken to when it comes to creating that beautiful connection with our vaginas. And so I'm so happy that you shared it. I'm so happy you were brave enough to share it, because maybe we all are feeling that way, or we feel a certain way. We're so afraid to like step out there and say something. So thank you. I love you, my sensual soul sister. And
thank you so much, Cameo.
you're welcome.